Former Syrian Interior Minister Lieutenant General Mohammed Ibrahim Al-Shaar has turned himself to the country's interim government. A photograph circulated on social media on Tuesday showed the former minister sitting inside a security forces vehicle after his surrender. Al-Shaar served as Syria's Minister of Interior from 2011 to 2018, and headed the military police and chief of Branch 227 of military intelligence in Damascus in 2006. He is accused of suppressing a prison uprising at Said Naya prison in 2008, during which over 20 inmates were killed. Since mid-2011, the former minister has been under Western sanctions. He has denied committing any crimes that would warrant prosecution under the new leadership. Al-Shaar's surrender is a significant development in Syria's transition phase after the opposition forces seized power by ousting long-standing President Bashar al-Assad in 2014.
اللواء محمد إبراهيم الشعار تم الاستلام من قبل الأخ فرج الحمود ومنيف الزعيم القداح بس مشان يعني تكون الأمور حسب يعني القانون والضوابط المتفق عليها ونحفظ كرامة الرجل وإن شاء الله تعالى ما راح نقصر لكل أي شخص بحب يعني يتم تسليم نفسه للسلطات أو الجهات المعنية في الدولة الجديدة سوريا. الأخ فرج الحمود
حياكم الله تحياتي لك أبو إسحاق.
Hundreds of people scrambled to leave the Greek island of Santorini by ferry Monday after an increase in seismic activity raised concerns about a potential powerful earthquake. According to Associated Press, authorities ordered schools on 4 islands to shut through Friday and deployed emergency rescue crews to Santorini. Precautions were also ordered on several nearby Aegean Sea islands, all popular summer vacation destinations, after more than 200 undersea earthquakes were recorded in the area over the past 3 days. Earlier in the day, residents and local workers headed to travel agents seeking plane or ferry tickets to leave the island. While Greek experts say the quakes, which have reached magnitude 4.9, are not linked to Santorini's volcano, they acknowledge that the pattern of seismic activity is cause for concern. Government officials met with scientists throughout the weekend and on Monday to assess the situation, while schools were also ordered shut on the nearby islands of Amorgos, Anafi and Ios for the entire week. Residents and visitors were advised to avoid large indoor gatherings and areas where rockslides could occur, while hotels were instructed to drain swimming pools to reduce potential building damage from an earthquake. Fire service rescuers who arrived on the island on Sunday set up yellow tents as a staging area inside a basketball court next to the island's main hospital.
Despite growing infantry losses, Russia is losing fewer tanks at the front every month. This indicates a reduction in their overall number in the aggressor's army, analysts write. An OSINT researcher operating on the X platform under the pseudonym Cyrus has analyzed data on Russian losses collected by his colleagues, including those from the Oryx project. This data shows a clear trend of decreasing tank losses from month to month. According to Cyrus, even if the number of tanks in service has remained unchanged, the Russians have clearly begun to economize on them due to depletion of stockpiles. Another OSINT researcher, Richard Verica, notes that in January 2025, the Russians lost only 45 tanks, while not losing a single T-90 tank. According to the analyst, the latter may mean that the Russians have failed to establish serial production of the new T-90M, and all the tanks that were passed off as new were in fact old but modernized. Now the warehouse stocks of old T-90s have run out. The advance of Russian troops in Ukraine has slowed down compared to the second half of 2024. At the same time, losses in the personnel of the Russian army are steadily growing. This is the conclusion reached by military and political observer Alexander Kovalenko, analyzing data on Russian losses and the number of captured territories in January of this year. They occupy less territory. They lose more personnel, he noted. He recalled that Russia's losses in Ukraine in January 2025 amounted to 48,240 killed and wounded, while the Russians occupied 325 square kilometers of territory. In other words, there are an average of 148 occupiers per 1 kilometer squared of Ukrainian land, essentially 1.5 companies. Overall, the dynamics have been maintained since December 2024, but are higher than the overall average for the entire last year, 129 bodies per 1 kilometer. The observer suggested that this trend would continue, and soon 200 bodies per square kilometer will no longer surprise anyone. Recall that the analytical project Deep State reported that in January, Russian troops captured 325 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. They noted that Russian occupiers continue to conduct active offensive actions in many areas, but almost everywhere, the Ukrainian defense forces manage to slow down the pace of the offensive. Basically, significant advances by the enemy occur because of our mistakes, which are constantly repeated.